Howdy, folks, and welcome to Nuvia News, the only news source brave enough to tell it like it is. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our fact-filled videos. Today, we're going to be diving headfirst into the whirlwind that was the beginning of the Trump presidency, specifically the 10 genius moves Trump made in his first 10 days in office. Now, you won't hear about this from the liberal media, but these moves, well, they shook Washington to its core. Get ready, folks, because we're about to take a trip back to when America was about to be made great again. Right off the bat, folks, Trump wasn't afraid to tackle the tough issues. He signed executive orders on gender recognition and military policies that sent a clear message. America was done with that whole politically correct song and dance. The radical left, they went crazy screaming about discrimination and such. But Trump, he stood strong, protecting traditional American values. He knew what the silent majority, the real Americans, wanted, and he wasn't afraid to deliver. Now, some folks, they called Trump's pardons and commutations controversial, but you know what I call them? Justice. Mercy. Trump looked beyond the legal mumbo-jumbo and saw the human beings trapped in a system rigged against them. He understood that sometimes, folks, the law just ain't enough. He had the guts to do what was right, not what was popular. Let's talk immigration. Trump knew that a country without borders is no country at all. He took a strong stance on immigration, and the mainstream media. They called him all sorts of names, but he didn't back down. He knew he was fighting for American jobs, for American security, for the American way of life, and the American people, they knew it too. Chapter 4, the Brown New Deal. The Paris Climate Accord, a bunch of globalist hogwash if you ask me. And Trump, he agreed. He pulled America out of that mess and he rolled back all those job-killing environmental regulations. He put America first, just like he promised. He unleashed the American economy, and folks, we were all getting ready to reap the benefits. Chapter 5, Know Nothing, Health and Science. Trump wasn't afraid to stand up to the so-called experts, not even when it came to health and science. He knew the World Health Organization was in bed with China, so he did what was right. He showed them the door. And the NIH? Let's just say he shook things up there too, putting American interests first. Chapter 6, Cabinet of Horrors. They called it a cabinet of horrors. I call it a cabinet of patriots. Trump surrounded himself with strong, experienced leaders who shared his vision for America. These weren't your typical swamp creatures, folks. These were men and women who weren't afraid to speak their minds, to fight for what they believed in. Chapter 7, War on Accountability. Now, some folks might say firing those inspector generals was a bit much, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Trump knew there were deep state operatives embedded in the government, folks just waiting to undermine him. He cleaned house, and he made sure the government was working for the people, not against them. Chapter 8, Jingoistic Name Games. Trump understands the power of a name. He knows that words matter. So, yeah, he renamed a few things. He put his own stamp on America, reminded everyone that this is a country with a proud history and a bright future. The liberals, they scoffed, but we knew he was just restoring a little American pride. Chapter 9, Fouled Up Foreign Policy. Trump's foreign policy? It wasn't about bowing down to dictators or apologizing for America's strength. It was about putting America first, protecting our interests and standing by our allies. He wasn't afraid to walk away from bad deals or call out our enemies. He was a true leader on the world stage, folks. And the world finally had to sit up and take notice. Chapter 10, Big Boss Dysfunction. Trump, he didn't just talk about draining the swamp. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. He slashed regulations, streamlined government operations, and made the whole darn thing more efficient. The bureaucrats, they hated it, but the American people, they loved it. Outrow, the legacy of Trump's first 10 days. You see, folks, those first 10 days, they were just a taste of what was to come. A taste of real leadership, of someone finally putting America first. The mainstream media, they tried to bury it, twist it, spin it into something it wasn't. But we know the truth. We were there. We saw it with our own eyes, and we won't forget it. Trump's presidency was a wild ride, no doubt about it. But one thing's for sure, he wasn't afraid to shake things up. He challenged the status quo, fought for the forgotten man, and reminded the world that America is a force to be reckoned with, and that's something worth remembering.